What was the worst battle in World War II? A question with no easy answer. The term worst is subjective, and its definition can pivot on various factors. These may include casualty numbers, strategic significance, and the overall impact on the course of the war. However, if we were to consider a combination of these factors, one battle springs to mind: the Battle of Stalingrad. Fought between August 23, 1942, and February 2, 1943, this brutal confrontation between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union is often held as a significant contender for the title of the worst battle of World War II. With staggering casualty numbers, intense fighting, significant strategic implications, and its role as a turning point in the war, the Battle of Stalingrad has etched its place in the annals of history. So let's delve into why the Battle of Stalingrad is often considered one of the worst battles of the war. The Battle of Stalingrad commenced on August 23, 1942. The city of Stalingrad, named after Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, was more than just a namesake. It was a crucial industrial city and a major transportation hub on the Volga River, the longest river in Europe. As such, it held immense strategic significance. The city was vital for the Germans for a couple of reasons. Firstly, they needed to secure their southern flank, and secondly, they sought access to the Caucasus oil fields. The oil fields were a significant prize, as they were one of the largest oil-producing regions in the world at the time. By capturing Stalingrad, the Germans aimed to sever the Volga River, cutting off vital transport and supply routes for the Soviet Union. However, the Soviets were not going to give up their city without a fight. For them, holding Stalingrad was not just a strategic necessity, but also a matter of national pride. The city bore the name of their leader, and losing it to the enemy was unthinkable. The strategic importance of the city turned it into a symbol of resistance against the invading forces, and the Soviets were prepared to defend it to the last man. As the battle began, the German Luftwaffe launched a massive air bombardment, reducing much of the city to rubble. But even amidst the destruction, the Soviets held their ground. The initial phase of the battle saw intense fighting, with both sides trying to gain the upper hand. The Germans, with their superior air power and artillery, initially made significant gains. But the Soviets, with their tenacious defense and knowledge of the urban terrain, were able to slow down the German advance. The battle for Stalingrad quickly turned into a brutal war of attrition. Every street, every building, every inch of the city was fiercely contested. The city's strategic importance had turned it into a battleground of unparalleled intensity. The stage was set for a brutal confrontation that would last for nearly 6 months. As the battle raged on, it was clear that the outcome of this clash would have far-reaching consequences for both the Eastern Front and the overall course of World War II. As the battle progressed, the city of Stalingrad turned into a deadly maze. The urban landscape was transformed into a warren of rubble and ruin, where every building, every street, held the potential for a lethal encounter. The city's inhabitants, soldiers and civilians alike, were trapped in a dire struggle for survival. The fighting was brutal and unrelenting. German and Soviet soldiers clashed in close-quarters combat, often room to room and hand to hand. There was no sanctuary, no respite. The very streets of Stalingrad became battlegrounds, echoing with the roar of gunfire, the whistling of artillery shells, and the screams of the wounded and dying. The conditions endured by those in the city were horrific. Food and water were scarce. Winter descended with a vengeance, its icy grip adding to the misery of those huddled in the ruins. Soldiers on both sides were plagued by frostbite, hunger, and disease. Yet, they fought on, driven by a grim determination and the knowledge that surrender was not an option. The casualty numbers were staggering. It's believed that over 2 million people, both military and civilian, lost their lives in this battle. The lifeblood of a generation was spilled on the streets of Stalingrad, a testament to the ferocity and desperation of the fighting. But the cost of the battle was not only in lives lost. The psychological toll was equally devastating. The sheer brutality of the fighting, the seemingly endless cycle of attack and counterattack, the constant fear and uncertainty left deep scars on those who survived. Many would carry these invisible wounds for the rest of their lives. a grim reminder of the horrors they had witnessed and endured. In the carnage and chaos of Stalingrad, the true nature of war was laid bare. It was a battle of attrition, a test of wills where victory was measured not in ground gained, but in the ability to endure, to survive, to keep fighting despite the odds. The toll of the battle was not only measured in lives lost, but also in the physical and psychological suffering endured by those involved. By November 1942, the course of the battle began to change. The Soviet Union, under the strategic command of General Georgy Zhukov, had been planning a counter-offensive codenamed Operation Uranus. The plan aimed to exploit the overextended and weakened German flank and rear, primarily held by Romanian and Italian troops, allies of Germany, but ill-equipped for the harsh Russian winter and the ferocity of the Soviet resistance. In a swift and brutal attack, the Red Army broke through these weak points, pushing westwards and encircling the German Sixth Army. Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus, leading the trapped German forces, found himself in a desperate situation. The encirclement was complete, and the Sixth Army was cut off from supplies and reinforcements, left to face the brutal Russian winter with dwindling resources. Back in Berlin, Hitler ordered Paulus to hold his position at all costs, promising air supplies that never came in the necessary volume. The situation for the encircled German soldiers became increasingly dire, with food and ammunition running low and the freezing temperatures taking a heavy toll. Despite the worsening conditions, Paulus, bound by his orders, refused to attempt a breakout. Instead, the German soldiers fought on, their numbers thinning day by day as the Soviet forces tightened their grip. The end was inevitable. On February 2nd, 1943, after 2 months of relentless fighting and suffering, Paulus did the unthinkable. He defied Hitler's orders and surrendered. More than 90,000 German soldiers were taken prisoner, including 22 generals. A once formidable force was reduced to a shadow of its former self, its soldiers emaciated and frostbitten. The surrender of the German Sixth Army marked a significant turning point, not only in the Battle of Stalingrad, but in World War II itself. It was the first major defeat of the German military, and it shattered the myth of Nazi invincibility. The Red Army began an unstoppable counter-offensive, pushing the German forces back, mile by bloody mile, all the way to Berlin. The Battle of Stalingrad was over, but its echo would resonate through the remaining years of the war. In the aftermath of the battle, the scale of the destruction and loss of life was staggering. Stalingrad, once a vibrant city, lay in ruins, and the human cost was beyond comprehension. Over 2 million soldiers and civilians were dead, wounded, or missing. This was not just a battle, it was a cataclysm. The fallout of Stalingrad extended beyond the physical. For the Germans, the defeat was a severe blow to their morale. Up until Stalingrad, the German military had seemed invincible, but the surrender of the Sixth Army shattered this illusion. It was the first major capitulation of Hitler's forces, and it deeply shook the German belief in their leader and their war effort. On the other side, the Soviet victory at Stalingrad was a tremendous morale booster. It demonstrated to the Soviet people, and indeed the world, that the Red Army could not only resist the German onslaught, but also deliver a decisive blow. The battle became a symbol of Soviet resistance and resilience, a source of national pride that galvanized the country for the struggles ahead. But the significance of Stalingrad extends beyond morale. Strategically, the battle was a turning point in the Second World War. The German defeat marked the end of their eastward advance and the beginning of a relentless Soviet counteroffensive. From this point on, the Red Army would push the Germans back, all the way to Berlin. Moreover, the Battle of Stalingrad had far-reaching global implications. It signaled to the Allies that Germany could be defeated, boosting their resolve to continue the fight. It also increased the strategic importance of the Western Front, as the Allies sought to open a second front to relieve pressure on the Soviets. The Battle of Stalingrad, a symbol of resistance and resilience, was indeed a turning point in the Second World War. It changed the course of the conflict, shifting the balance of power and setting the stage for the ultimate defeat of Nazi Germany. So was the Battle of Stalingrad the worst battle in World War II? This question, like many historical inquiries, is complex and multifaceted. The worst battle can be determined through various lenses: casualty numbers, duration and intensity of the fight, strategic significance, and the overall impact on the course of the war. The Battle of Stalingrad, with its staggering casualty numbers, intense close-quarters combat, and significant strategic importance, certainly ticks all these boxes. The battle's duration, lasting nearly 6 grueling months, amplified its severity. Its pivotal role as a turning point in the war also adds weight to its claim as the worst. Today, the Battle of Stalingrad is remembered as an emblem of the human cost of war, a testament to the resilience of those who fought, and a reminder of the destructive power of totalitarian regimes. While the worst battle may be subjective, it's undeniable that the Battle of Stalingrad holds a significant place in the annals of World War II history.